Former presidential candidate Ross Perot has passed away. The 89-year-old died early this morning at his home in Dallas following a battle with leukemia. He ran for the White House twice as an independent in 1992 and 1996. Perot was a billionaire who made his fortune in computer science services. He used millions of his own money in his campaigns and pushed to cut government deficits. In his failed 1992 run, Perot finished with nearly 19% of the popular vote. Larry Sabato joins us now from Charlottesville, Virginia. He's, of course, a presidential historian and the director of the University of Virginia Center for Politics. So, Larry, I want to start off, and I want to play for you a clip from Larry King Live, and it's from February of 1992, where Ross Perot actually outlines what it would take for him to run for president.
If you want to register me in 50 states, number one, I'll promise you this, between now and the convention, we'll get both parties' heads straight. Number two, I think I can promise you're going to see a world-class candidate on each side. And number three, by the convention, you might say, Christ, it's all taken care of. But on the other hand, we're set. And if you're not happy with what you see and you want me to do it, then I don't want any money from anybody but you. And I don't want anything but $5 from you, because I can certainly pay for my own campaign. No ifs, ands, and buts. But I want you to have skin in the game. I want you to be in the ring. Now then, God bless you all who have written me and called me.
Talking directly to voters there. You know, Larry, you've joked about Larry King's show serving as the campaign headquarters for Ross Perot. How was he able to do that?
Well, of course, it was a completely different era. It was really a pre-computer era. Most people weren't on computer. We didn't really have cell phones. This was the opportunity for a candidate to go over the heads of the network anchors and the print reporters and reach people directly. And of course, Larry King was all in favor of it because it drove his ratings through the ceiling. So it was a marriage made in heaven between Ross Perot and Larry King, and it worked. It was just incredible how many millions of people were unhappy, very unhappy with President Bush and with the likely Democratic nominee, Bill Clinton. So they signed up, and that was the genesis of the largest independent vote since Teddy Roosevelt ran as the Bull Moose candidate in 1912.
19%. I mean, looking at that number, pretty remarkable, Larry. I mean, how unusual was it for a campaign like this to go about the way that Ross Perot did?
Oh, it was unprecedented. I mean, after all, Teddy Roosevelt was a former two-term president. Everybody knew Teddy Roosevelt. Ross Perot was known as a businessman, a billionaire businessman who had snappy one-liners and, some would say, simplistic views about key issues. Gee, who does that sound like, Rena? Who does that sound like today?
No, you were making some comparisons on Twitter too, to President Trump and talking about this, as far as strategy and reaching out. But when you talk about his approach and how really successful, he didn't win, but it doesn't mean that he didn't have that sort of clout and ability to reach people. Why do you think he was so successful? What was it about Ross Perot?
Well, there were an awful lot of people back then, as there are today, who say they want politicians to speak directly to them and forthrightly to them and tell them the way it is, but they also want, as I suggested, simplistic solutions to complicated problems. Perot gave them that, and I have to say, in some cases, Perot certainly did some good. He was able to keep both Bush and Clinton in line on, for example, the deficit, which, after all, did decline dramatically in the 1990s, and there was even a brief period of a budget surplus. We'll never see that again.
And that was such a big focus of that campaign was the deficit and the focus that, Bill Clinton and George W. Bush talked about H.W. Bush talked about the impact, money, people's pocketbooks, taxes. Mary Madeline, the deputy campaign manager for President George W. Bush, said that she's convinced that Perot cost Bush his re-election. Do you agree with that?
No, there are a lot of people who agree with Mary. A lot of people believe that that's true, but the best research and the large majority of the research on the 1992 election shows that had Perot not been in the race, Clinton would have been elected anyway, would actually have gotten a majority of the vote and probably would have gotten off to a stronger start. You know, he was hobbled by the fact that he only got 43% of the vote with Ross Perot's 19% and President Bush's 37 to 38%. So no, I don't agree with that. It's a myth that is powerful, that people believe today, but like a lot of myths, it isn't true.
Glad you were able to debunk that. You know, after 92, Larry, and 96, his presidential campaigns, did he remain active in politics? What did he choose to do with his life in the last few years?
Well, he did run again in 1996. He went from 19% in 1992 to just 8% in 1996. I say just 8%. That's very substantial for a third-party candidate, but it's far less than he got in 1992. After 1996, he faded from politics. He went back into business. I think he had tired of it, and perhaps people had tired of him a bit.
And what would you say, Larry, would be his legacy on American politics?
His legacy was in breaking the mold, in showing people in and out of politics that someone could come from the outside and could confound both of the major parties, both of the major party nominees. And it took a while, but somebody else caught on to that too, and he's sitting in the White House today.
Larry Sabato, thank you so much, Larry, for breaking down the life and legacy of Ross Perot.
Thank you, Rena.